and the show Proof, focused on mental health. While not the splashiest or most well-known show, we had several regular patrons let us know that they thought Proof was one of the best productions they'd ever seen at KLT. I think it was just something a little different than what we had normally done. Next slide. We continued in November with Arsenic and Old Lace, a wildly popular and name-recognized show. We even got our friends at the Folly, I'm sure you'll recognize the background there, to assist with our promo photos. Next slide. Attendance was up, and we were able to secure some new media outlets and partners for this production, so we think that that was part of the reason we had done so well. This season, also new for KLT, we are having 2 large-scale musicals, Seussical and Into the Woods. There's Seussical there. Being all volunteer, it's a big deal to do 2 large musicals, and they require a lot of planning. Our sound equipment was sorely in need of updating, and we made a significant investment this season in the updating of our sound equipment. Next season, we will also be looking to budget and secure funding for an update to our lighting equipment at an even greater cost. When we receive support from the town, it provides security for our organization and helps us diligently plan these needed upgrades. That equipment kind of sat dormant there for a while during COVID, and of course, when you come back, things don't work just as well as you thought they would. And of course, as Mayor Morgan graciously offered, I'd love to invite you all to Seussical this weekend. Next slide. This is our annual Bring a Book to Life production, and it's well received by the community. These were just some audience members last weekend. We had lots of kids in the audience. Kids came in their own costumes and took pictures with the characters there at the auditorium. Opening weekend has exceeded our expectations. But these productions mean so much to the young people and the families that participate in them. We are giving to the school tomorrow. We have the age-appropriate books again, Hop on Pop, The Cat in the Hat. All the places you'll go is for the 5th grade. They also are getting a Who Was book. I don't know if you're familiar with those biographies, but there's a Who Was Dr. Seuss book for our 3rd and 4th graders. But when I say they mean a lot, obviously to the children there at the school it means a lot, but it also means a lot to our families and volunteers. And I'd like to quickly ask Ronnie Albrecht and his dad to come up, if he's still feeling like doing so, to tell you what it means to him.
Hello. I'm Brian Albrecht. This is my son, Ronald Albrecht, and we've both been involved in KLT. I've been in there for probably about 4 or 5 years now, and my son got old enough to kind of participate in some of the performances, and so tell him a little bit about what it means to you.
I personally like KLT because of you get to meet new people and make new friends. Okay, that's all I have to say.
But I was hearing her say about family, and that's exactly what it's become I know for myself, and it's kind of coming that for him too, is that we do become a family, especially with each production. You kind of expand that family, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, we appreciate anything and everything that you guys do for us too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And even more impressive, Ronnie has a 7:30 a.m. call time tomorrow for the production. So the fact that he's here tonight, we are greatly appreciative of. But in closing, what the town does in support of our nonprofits is appreciated. And investments like those for organizations here tonight and the ones that will come after us is what keeps that sense of community, that small town feel, even as Kernersville is growing. So again, I thank you for the opportunity to present what we've been doing, and I welcome any questions. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Rachel? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, next is the Kernersville Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening. On behalf of the Kernersville Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, our staff team, and our volunteers, we thank you for all that you do and for allowing us to speak this evening. I would first like to show you our team, along with Ashley Sinclair, who is our marketing director for downtown and programs, and myself. We've got Lisa to my right, and she is the administrative assistant, and then Amanda is our director of finance, tourism, and economic progress. We're an organization of businesses and professionals working together to promote the economic progress of our community. Our 2023 Board of Directors is seen here. We also want to thank our chair, Jimmy Flythe, who's here, and one of our directors, Larry Redfern, who is here. This is a list. Next slide, please. This is a list of everything that we will talk about in our presentation. And also, I would like to show you, we've got a picture of one of our ribbon cuttings. We did over 40 ribbon cuttings this past year, which is a record. And then we've got our Business of the Month. We do one each month, so that's 12.
Hi, as Chris mentioned, I'm Ashley Sinclair with the Chamber. I was here last year, but I'm just as nervous this year, and this is number 2, so if I stutter a bit, I apologize. So being over downtown Kernersville, that is probably one of the best opportunities that I've had. Not being from Kernersville and coming in, that has definitely just... wow, it's amazing. And through that, promoting the tourism into downtown Kernersville, we host several events throughout the year. We do Mags and Mims, Spring Volley, of course, Sidewalk Saturdays that happen in the summer months, the brick marker ceremony that happens in June that we know will honor those in the community that may have served or may have passed that family members want to honor, or maybe they have a great accomplishment. So we definitely invite that type of spirit into downtown Kernersville. We do the shopping and eating for education and several holiday events. Just to throw out a few numbers for you to kind of, hear what we did in 2022. Our downtown committee met 11 times last year, so that was wonderful. We do not meet in December, of course. Magnolias and Mimosas, we featured 6 of the boutiques from downtown Kernersville. Young Professionals held several events and meetings. I believe it was a total of 8. The brick marker ceremony recognized 6 people in the community. The 4th of July decorating contest that we partner with the Kernersville Appearance Commission. Still learning some names. We partnered with them, and that 12 businesses participated in that. Shopping and eating for education, we had 31 businesses. And then going into all the holiday events, we had, I think, 15 businesses in total kind of open and showcase their stores, for shopping for, Christmas in Kernersville, and then the holiday open house, which is also the shopping on Saturday, shopping local. And then last but not least, as you can see on the slide, we did a Polar Express train ride this past Christmas, and it brought in 60% of people that was not at all from Kernersville. So that was a wonderful hit for downtown Kernersville, for the Chamber, for the town of Kernersville, that 60% of those people, we brought to the Christmas parade, to the tree lighting, to just several areas of Kernersville. So that was definitely something when we kind of sat down and looked at it, we were like, whoa, that was insane. So we really enjoyed that. All right, and I'm going to give it back to Chris to talk about membership.
And to add on to what Ashley just mentioned about the Polar Express, which we are not going to do this year, we are combining with Ernie and his team with Parks and Rec, and we're going to do something called Blooms to Bells the day before the Christmas parade, and we just secured a sponsor and a real trolley today to go through downtown Kernersville on that night from 5 to 9. So we're very much looking forward to that, and everyone gets to ride the trolley in downtown Kernersville. It's okay. Sorry. So we have some facts about social media and print and radio, television. I'm going to let Ashley expand on those. She is an expert at this and is the best person to talk about it.
So as far as our following goes, we're pretty much seeing a lot of growth as through all of our social media platforms, including LinkedIn, which recently I've gotten a lot of feedback that LinkedIn in the community has pretty much taken a big jump. So we are utilizing that as well and kind of gaining that following. LinkedIn, for those who don't know, it's a little more professional job postings sort of thing, not so much social like Facebook has kind of went into. So with Facebook, as you can see here, how many followers we gained with downtown Kernersville and with the Kernersville Chamber of Commerce. This has been done through a various of analytics run, and then also some sponsored ads that we get too when we have events coming up like our expo. We try to sponsor an ad that'll go out to at least a 20-mile radius to people who may not see our page or see an event, and then of course that brings in people as well. And then as you can see here, we're still doing our newsletter that we are now doing bi-weekly rather than weekly. We kind of noticed that once we took it out of weekly, we noticed a lot more people opening it. It wasn't so much of a nuisance, so to speak. So we're getting a number up in that as well, which is great. I feel like there was something else I was going to mention, but if it comes back to me, I'll let you know. Yeah, I'll pump your elbow.
This past year, we continued to progress forward from that transitional year in 2021. We were able to do all of our past events, plus we added 3 new events. We added the Masquerade Ball, the Business Showcase, and that train that we mentioned during Christmas. I would like to invite each of you to our March 14th Healthy Living and Business Expo at the Kernersville YMCA from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have up to 60 vendors. I think we're in the 50s at this point. And we will have a seminar at lunch, so please sign up for that as well. In addition to those 3 new events, we were able to host Magnolias and Mimosas, Recycle Day, golf tournament, evening golf, lunch with leaders, annual awards breakfast, the annual meeting and banquet, and the Christmas parade. All had record attendance, but if you'll remember the Spring Folly, it got rained out all but 4 hours Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday saw record numbers because the weather was nice. If you'll note on here, membership is getting back there. So if you look on the bar graph, you'll see in 2018, 2019, we had our most members. 2020, COVID hit us. 2021, we wanted to keep as many folks on as members, even if they weren't paying during that COVID time. And then towards the end of 21 into 22, they started to come back. We can't ask folks to pay for their membership if their businesses aren't doing well, but we certainly want to be there to assist them. Yeah. The one opportunity I would like to share here on this particular slide is the guide that I gave you each. 1,000 of these went out. We have more at the chamber, but this is a relocation guide. We have made the guide significantly smaller due to the request of those in our community. And everyone that comes into our community through realtors and other entities get this as well. If you would like more, please stop by. We'd love to have you take some. All right. Tourism continues to grow. We cannot thank our collaborators enough. The Kernersville Museum, the Paul J. Senior Botanical Garden, Kerner's Folly, the Kernersville Family YMCA, the Shepherd Center of Kernersville, the Salvation Army of Kernersville, Crisis Control, and the Kernersville Classic Car Museum. We are a strong chamber because of our businesses and because of those collaborators. The continued work of the chamber could not be possible without the town of Kernersville. We thank each of you, and if you have any questions for us, we're here to do that.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ashley. Are there any questions at this time?
Madam Mayor, I don't have any questions, but I do want to say to Chris and Ashley, I think on an increasing basis, they've been successful in recruiting businesses that may not be headquartered in the town of Kernersville, but still consider Kernersville to be part of their market. We had one with an employment-related business this past week. I think maybe it was this week. They run together. But in any event, those folks are, they're interested in doing the business before hours, the business after hours, and I think they have really come to realize the value of the chamber membership, even though their storefront may not be in downtown Kernersville or in the town of Kernersville. They consider us part of their market. So doing a good job with that. Thank you.
All right, next is Kernersville Folly.
Good evening. My name is Susanna Maliette, Executive Director of Kernersville Folly, located at 413 South Main Street. On behalf of the Board of Directors of Kernersville Folly, as well as our staff and volunteers, I would like to express our great appreciation for the ongoing encouragement from the citizens and government of the town of Kernersville, which has been an essential component of the support we need to continue to preserve and restore historic Kernersville Folly for the education and enjoyment of the public. This evening, I'm joined by members of our Board of Directors, past and present. If y'all will please stand, thank you. Together, they provide an unwavering commitment to both the historic structure and to our community. It is the vision of the Kernersville Folly Foundation to be a place of learning at the intersection of innovation, history, and the arts, and to serve as a conduit for connection among all people. Jewel Gilmer Kerner's dream of providing endless options for home furnishing and decorating, as well as creating a place legendary for its hospitality and sharing of arts and culture, lives on to this day through the events, programs, and educational offerings we provide throughout the year. In light of our recent request for grant funding through the town of Kernersville, I would like to touch on some of the highlights of our past year. We have all seen the negative effects of COVID, but we are also beginning to see them ease. Our tour visitation and program attendance is on the rise since 2020 and trending upwards. This graph shows our visitation trends over the past 15 years. In 2022, we welcomed 12,231 visitors to Kernersville Folly, up from 10,385 in 2021, which is an increase of 17.8%. Though we are still shy of our high water mark of 14,000 visitors in 2019, we are on track to break that record soon. In 2022, we presented unique educational opportunities for children and families. Here are some great photos from our 2 homeschool days. We have one in the spring and one in the fall. We held Homeschool Day Inventors and Inventions, exploring some of the fascinating advances that happened during the Victorian era. And we also held Homeschool Day Art and Architecture, where we built houses out of cardboard and recycled materials and learned how to paint a still life painting. We also held Girl Scout Days in the spring and fall. Patch Party is each spring where Scouts earn the Kernersville Folly patch through different requirements throughout the house. You can see some of our Scouts in costume, playing badminton, learning about Victorian fashion, doing a scavenger hunt, and having a tea party on the south porch. Next slide. We have some awesome photos from our Family Fun Day celebration over the summer. It's a great opportunity for intergenerational learning. Grandparents, parents, and children all come together to explore Kerner's Folly through hands-on activities. We also welcomed over 400 children on docent-led field trips in 2022, from exploring history and readers' theater tours for elementary students to thematic tours for high school interior design students, with even more field trips scheduled for this spring and summer. For adults, we presented entertaining opportunities for deeper engagement with history and material culture through our Victorian Parlor Series program. In 2022, over 150 adults participated in VPS programming, such as Valentine's by Candlelight, historic wallpaper with Preservation for Sight, photographing the folly with the Photo Classroom of Charlotte, North Carolina, coffee culture with Savage Roasters of Kernersville, and a Halloween mystery whodunit, in costume, of course. In 2022, we had the pleasure of welcoming 175 adults on docent-guided tours, providing an extended experience of the history of Kerner's Folly and the family who lived there. We are beginning to see a reemergence of group tours and heritage tourism, with several motor coach tours scheduled for 2023, ranging in location from South Carolina to Virginia. For our community, we continued our tradition of presenting holiday programming through our Victorian Christmas at Kerner's Folly, welcoming over 4,000 visitors during the holidays alone through self-guided tours and Christmas by Candlelight events in collaboration with Kernersville Little Theater. Visitors viewed our spectacular Victorian-inspired Christmas decorations created by a dedicated group of skilled volunteers. We also celebrated a Kernersville Yuletide, collaborating with the Kernersville Museum and Paul J. Senior Botanical Garden to promote a full day of family fun in downtown Kernersville. Kerner's Folly also hosted 4 free vendor markets, including spring and fall vintage markets, as well as a Christmas in July and holiday market organized by Aixa Maria's Gift Baskets. Over 4,900 visitors attended those markets in 2022. Our emphasis on showcasing the works of local artists, makers, and creatives through these markets helps support the small businesses that make our community vibrant and unique. In 2022, we continued our efforts towards interior restoration with the completion of the summer kitchen project. This restoration, made possible by individual donors, as well as the State Historic Preservation Office, transformed this space from its former appearance and function to a beautiful, beautiful space with the help of Wilson Covington Construction Company. I don't know if y'all remember touring Kerner's Folly, but the summer kitchen had about a 4-inch crack in the foundation, which you can see in those photos, making it a safety hazard as well as an ugly sight. But as you can see today, we have a beautiful summer kitchen and have reinterpreted that space. All right. Maintaining high attendance and visitation is a result of marketing and promotion efforts, as well as our track record of excellent museum experiences and programs. In 2022, we maintained a delivery schedule that placed brochures at local hotels, venues, and attractions, working with Visit Winston-Salem, the Arts Council of Winston-Salem Forsyth County, as well as North Carolina Welcome Centers to ensure that out-of-state visitors have easy access to information about Kerner's Folly. Ads in O. Henry magazine with Paul J. Senior Botanical Garden helped us spread the word beyond Kernersville, as well as interviews with WXII's The Local Vibe for Christmas and with Fox 8 focusing on our summer bucket list ad campaign. O. Henry magazine also featured our Christmas decorators and decorations in their December issue, and paid advertising through Triad Moms on Main and Facebook helped drive attendees to our children and family programming. I know these numbers are hard to see, but they indicate that we have a very strong digital engagement, both on Facebook and our website. The screen on the left shows our social media reach in 2022, getting close to 176,000 people reached through our social media marketing efforts. Obviously, a lot of those folks are in Kernersville, but we see that they are from all over the Southeast, as well as New York, California, Texas, Georgia, all over. On the right-hand side, you'll see our Google Analytics web traffic. We're showing a high percentage of organic searches, which means that our search engine optimization is working correctly. When people visit Google, what to do in Kernersville, fun things to do in Kernersville, history in Kernersville, Kerners Valley will pop right up for them, along with a lot of other awesome things. All right, next one. We rely on our TripAdvisor and Google reviews quite frequently to gauge how well we are doing, both internally and externally. We've got a very good rating on TripAdvisor, and not to brag, but we are the #1 destination in Kernersville on TripAdvisor. We also have great Google reviews, interesting place, great support. We get consistently high marks on our staff, and that in turn drives further traffic to Kerners Valley. So bolstering our position and perception for travelers are our outstanding visitor reviews. Our tourism marketing efforts directly benefit the town of Kernersville because our patrons visit Kernersville businesses. They shop downtown, fill up at gas stations, visit our parks, stay at hotels, and especially dine at local restaurants. Kerners Valley actively cooperates with a variety of local nonprofits, attractions, and merchants to make sure our visitors are making the most out of their trip to Kernersville. And in return, we know that these organizations and businesses do the same for us. We all work together to market Kernersville as a truly unique destination. In recent news, we had a groundbreaking ceremony this past Saturday. The new John and Bobby Wolf Visitor Center at Kerners Valley will function as a community gathering space, providing improved amenities and increased accessibility for visitors to historic Kerners Valley, while also serving as a beautiful introduction to historic downtown Kernersville. Over the past decade, increased visitation to the Historic House Museum and a rising demand for educational programming, combined with the limits of the space that we currently use, have necessitated investment in a facility expansion. We confirmed these findings by a stakeholder survey conducted by an outside consultant in 2017. A new facility will allow the Kerners Valley Foundation to grow sustainably and serve a wider audience in more meaningful ways, while continuing to support and enhance the organizations, businesses, and individuals that make the town of Kernersville a great place to live and work. We are so excited for this much-needed and long-awaited expansion and are preparing to scale up our operations to be fully functional in the new center within the next year. To conclude, more than just a beautiful place to visit, Kerners Valley helps visitors connect with history and with each other through educational programs and community events. Kerners Valley would not be in the great shape we are in today without the town's support, and for that, we are especially grateful. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you for your presentation. And thank you to the volunteers and Foundation board members that are here this evening. All right, some great presentations by nonprofits, and we will have more on Tuesday from some other organizations. So we'll move on now to item C, which is discussion and consideration of the sale of property to NCDOT for the Big Mill Farm Road project. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor, before I discuss this one, I would like to say while Ms. Denny's still here, Mr. Powell pulled up the most recent version of Apple Maps, and it is correct. When you type in 23 Highway 66 South, it shows it down by Clark's Barbecue. When you type in 1323 West Mountain Street, it shows it at West Mountain Street. So I think the issue is that the older version of Apple Maps is the incorrect address. With that being said, I don't know how you correct that, because Apple is, do what? It doesn't show you. When you type in 1323 Highway 66, it shows it down at Clark's. So I don't know how you can correct that because Apple's going to tell you that we've updated it in our current version and we can't help that folks are using the old version. But it is the current version. He's got it and we typed it in and it comes up correct. Whether you type in Highway 66 South or Highway 66 or whatever, it shows it down in the strip center beside of Clark's. Google Maps, I tested it on Google Maps, it shows them in the correct location. So if they're using an old version, there's nothing we can do as far as sending them information to get them, because they have updated the most recent version of it. And they can't, all they can do is say, hey, we've got the recent version updated. So, we'll look and see if there's something we can do, but it's in all likelihood, if it's an old version, there's nothing that we can't get Apple to do anything. They say that we've updated our latest version and it's correct.
I'm sorry, I just need to make that, because when you have 150 people coming to your home, I don't know before some of those came before Kevin came, but I don't know where the link is, and I've done all the work, so it's just time for you to help me. I'm sorry.
It's what I'm telling you is it's not the town. We don't have anything to do with Apple Maps or Google Maps.
The address, you didn't do proper research, and because there can't be 21323 Highway 66, and that's what I'm asking.
But it's what I'm telling you is the address is correct. One of them says Highway 66 and the other one says West Mountain Street. It says that on the tax map, it says that on the deeds, it says it on Google Maps, and it says it on Apple Maps. The problem is Apple has entered it incorrectly in their mapping system. In their mapping app, in their old one, it was entered incorrectly. That's not the town. We have the correct address. It's not going to matter if we're not going to change someone's address. It is correct. The address is what it is. It's correct in everything except for the old version of Apple Maps. And Apple's not going to, they've updated it, so it's correct. I can't help that the folks might still be using old Apple Maps that are coming to your house. I agree with what Mr. Barrow said. Probably the way to do it is put a no trespassing sign out there and charge them with trespassing. DoorDash will get the hint sooner or later. But it's not the fact that we changed the address that did it. Changing the address had nothing to do with it. Those addresses are correct. Everyone that we have that goes to those addresses has the right one, except for the folks that use an old Apple Maps.
Well, at least extend, have the courtesy that you would contact DoorDash and try to ask them what's happening.
And we can certainly do that. I can't guarantee you that they'll change it, but we can certainly do that. And we will. We'll contact them. We've contacted Apple. It is correct in the new Apple app. But, you're not going to be able to contact everyone that's using the old Apple map and say you need to upgrade your Apple map if you're a delivery person because this address is wrong. I hate it's wrong, but it's probably more than that one address that's incorrect. I can tell you that I've used Apple Maps. I've used Google Maps. I used Google Maps to go to a conference for the town, and it took me in the backyard of someone for that conference center. And I can tell you that conference center was not in that person's backyard. But again, we can contact DoorDash, but we can't, there's no way feasible to contact all of the delivery folks that may deliver something to your house. I hate it, but there's just no way to do it simply because we don't know who's delivering there. It's my guess would be as they upgrade their apps, I don't know what year the Apple map is incorrect, but I know the new one is correct. At least it was on Mr. Powell's computer.
Is it possible to contact those folks and ask them to flag that address? Because it seems like evidently it's one person that's doing a lot of ordering from this one particular, because it's the same address that's directed them to this place. So if we could get them to just flag that address, so when that comes in, it can alert whoever's delivering there that that's a bad address, that you need to use the newer version of Apple Map. That could probably help the situation.
Yeah, and we can check on that. If DoorDash is the one that's there the most, we can tell them to flag that address, whether they will or won't. I mean, and the problem is DoorDash can do it, but it's still going to be the individual delivery driver that is the DoorDash contractor that goes out to Jimmy John's and picks up the sub and takes it over there. You know, if they're using old Apple Maps, they're going to get the wrong address. That's the bad part. They've got so many different contractors that are using different apps that you just don't know. Same with Amazon. I'm honestly surprised at Amazon that you don't have more Amazon drivers showing up, as many of them as there are. But Amazon may require their drivers to use the most current version of all the mapping systems. I don't know. But that's what we found out so far. We'll look into it some more and see if there's something we can do, but you know, I don't know what that would be. So, moving on to item C, sale of the property NCDOT for the Big Mill Farm Road project. You have in your packet an offer letter. This is the property that is behind the Kohl's Shopping Center. It's right at 3.9 acres. I think they are looking at taking 3.1 acres for the road coming across there, Big Mill Farm Road. It's not really, we got it through, we required it to be dedicated to the town years ago, and we got it to be dedicated for this road extension at some point in the future. So we knew, 20 years ago that we would be extending Big Mill Farm Road, and we acquired this through some dedication. They're offering, they've had it appraised, you have the appraisal in your packet, and you have their offer letter of $64,275 for that parcel. We have already sold the timber off of that parcel as well several years ago. I think we got somewhere around $10,000 to $15,000 maybe for the timber. The parcel's not a great parcel. I mean, you can see it going down Salem Parkway right before you get to the Main Street exit if you're going east. It's got a pretty good slope to it. You get in the bottom of it, and I mean, it's got a pretty good sized culvert there as well. So we didn't acquire it to have for future development. We acquired it for this expansion of Big Mill Farm Road. Be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any. There'll be a little bit of it left. I think it says on there maybe 0.4 acres of it left, but we didn't really anticipate having any of it left when we first acquired it. So the fact that we have a little bit left is maybe good, but it's neither really here nor there. We're not going to do anything with it.
Okay, this matter is on for consideration and vote tonight. Are there any questions or discussion?
Is there any value to the 0.4?
Excuse me?
Is there any value to what's left?
Very little.
What's the point of keeping it?
They just didn't need it.
What are we going to do with it?
Probably mow
Look
it.
at it.
Mow it? Yeah, we're going to spend.
No, we won't have to mow it. It's wooded, so we'll just ride by and look at it and say, oh, we've got that half acre there.
We can't sell it for anything. Is there any reason not to just sell the whole piece? And
We could probably, they may not want it, but we could probably ask them, hey, do you want this other 0.4 acres with it?
if we can't do anything with it.
Not that I'm aware of. Probably actually won't even have access to it as far as a driveway cut on or off of it. It'd be holding the embankment together so it doesn't erode.
And we'll have to take care of it.
So far, there's not been any maintenance to it, fortunately. I think we can wait another 20 years when some more timber grows up on it and sell it again. Might have 10 trees on it by then.
Somebody falls off that bank, we're gonna get sued, though, aren't we?
Well, you won't be able to get to the bank either, which is good. I can ask them if they want it. I mean, I'll ask them. They may have a temporary construction easement on it, and then we'll get that portion of it back.
Any other questions? So this would not be for the additional 0.4. This would just be on the proposal in front of us.
Yeah, this is just for the 3.19 or whatever it might be. they wouldn't, I mean, they would not buy the other .4. They might say, hey, if y'all want to throw in the .4, we'll take it off your hands, but they don't need it, so they wouldn't buy it. But it's 3.633 acres in total, and they need 3.136, so it'd leave .497. And I'll ask them, I mean, if it's not worth really, I mean, it's not worth anything hardly at all. I'll ask them if they want it so that we don't have to do the maintenance. If there is any future maintenance, we wouldn't have any, which I don't think there will be. I mean, looking at the parcel, it's just kind of wooded, natural lot there, except for where the timber's been cut. But it is just for the 3.136.
Do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move we accept the offer at the fully appraised value and that we sell the property as proposed.
Got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Apple,
Second.
a second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
I've got a question. I'm in favor of selling it, but I mean, I would like to make sure that we're going to ask them about this other .4 acres. If it's no benefit to the town, I don't see any need for us to hold on to it.
Yes, what I can do, I can ask them and you can continue it to Tuesday night. If you want to do that, we can put it back on for Tuesday and I'll have an answer for you by Tuesday on
I think
that.
that makes sense from the town that I have.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that if you'll withdraw your motion and then make the motion to continue until Tuesday.
So withdrawn.
I'll make a motion to continue this till Tuesday.
Do I have a second? Got a motion and a second. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, item D is consideration of acceptance of offer to purchase town-owned property on Perry Road.
And this is the property on Perry Road. I think we've discussed it probably 3 times, but the process is the board has to accept the offer, then we put it out for 10 days for upset bid. If there's no upset bid, then the board votes to either finalize the offer and accept it or not accept it. The offer was $230,000. We put it out the 10 days, there was no upset bid. So the offer is still in by Brantley Commercial Properties LLC. It's for a 5.05 acre parcel behind John Deere off Perry Road. So be glad to answer any questions that the board may have regarding that parcel. And we would need, if the board is inclined to sell it, we would need a motion to finalize the acceptance of that offer by Brantley Commercial Properties, or however, let's say how they have it listed.
A motion to approve.
Brantley Commercial Partners.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, item E is consideration of acceptance of bid for Thomas Drake culvert replacement.
This is the culvert, this is one culvert in a phase of, I think, 3 or 4 that we were doing over in the area behind the Wesleyan Church that goes down through there. We put it out to bid. The low bidder on the project was Baker Underground. We received bids from, it was like 5 companies. And then Baker Underground was a low bidder on the project at $610,602.30. So staff has reviewed all the bids, tabulated the bids, and they are recommending that the board accept the bid from Baker Underground to do the work. Dorn's here. He can answer any questions that you may have regarding that project as well.
Okay, does anyone have any questions of Doran? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion for approval by Alderman J.R. Gorham. Second.
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Doran, for your continued work to ease the flooding situations along these road network. We appreciate it. All right, item F, consideration of a resolution to update the fund balance policy.
Madam Mayor, Board, the town adopted the current fund balance policy back in 2011, so almost 12 years ago. We have not updated it since that time. Our current fund balance policy states that we must maintain a minimum unrestricted fund balance of 20%. Back in 2011, that was pretty realistic. Our budget was $27 million. The 20% is of our budget. So back then it was $27 million, 20% was about $5.4 million. As we went along these last 12 years, as you all know, our budget has increased. Our budget now is almost $43 or $44 million. So 20% of that is what we consider unrealistic. We've looked at our cities around us, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, those folks have 8 to 10%. Right now, we are sitting at about 15 to 17%. So we are below our requirement. We don't anticipate, as our budget goes up, we probably won't have 20% in the unrestricted fund balance anytime soon, because we're now looking at almost $10 million to have an unrestricted fund balance to meet that 20%. We currently have about 6.5 to 7 million in there. We anticipate somewhere around 6.5 to 7 million at the end of this fiscal year. So it's not like the amount has dropped. We still have the same amount or more than we've always had in the fund balance. Just the percentage has dropped. So with that drop in percentage and dollar amounts, we are in violation of our own fund balance policy. So we are recommending to the board that we change the fund balance policy to more reflect where we are now with the budget that we have. And we're recommending changing that to 10%, which would still put us above the state requirement. And it would more put us in line with the folks around us that have budgets, now of $40 million and more. Once you hit the $40 million mark on budgets, somewhere around 40 to 50 million, your fund balance percentage is less just because it is so much to keep in fund balance. So we're recommending to the board to change that to 10%. Like I say, we'll still have the same amount dollar-wise in the fund balance that we've always had. And we have spent some out of the fund balance in the last probably year or so that we've not went back and borrowed to replenish the fund balance. We've had some land purchases, some equipment purchases, had a lot of carryover purchases, which carryover purchases is what they do is they increase your current operating budget because they carry over, we show that. So all of that together just makes for a larger budget and makes for more that we have to have in the fund balance. So it's not like we're running out of money. It's just that percentage of our budget is now lower than what it used to be. So,
Well, and two, there was the accounting change where we have to account for the entirety of a value of a project and not just that year's payment as well.
correct. And so it's, and it's what the mayor is referring to is when you go out, if we buy a piece of equipment, that entire cost of that piece of equipment shows in there as your budget, but the only thing that really impacts is the payment, but it all shows in there. So that increases your budget, which again impacts it. When you look at a percentage, it impacts the dollar amount that percentage equates out to. So we're still fine from a dollar standpoint. We still have money in the fund balance. Again, it's about 6.5 or 7 million. Percentage wise, it's just a little bit lower than the 20%. And as the budget continues to increase, we see that percentage is becoming less. Our goal will always be to have more than the 10% in it. Just like when it was 20%, sometimes we have more than the 20. So our goal is to always have more than the 10% in it. We just don't want to get caught in a position where we're actually violating our fund balance policy.
I think it's a reasonable change.
Is there a recommendation by the Institute of Government or some of them people of what it should be?
You've got to have 8%. And for the smaller folks, back when our budget was, somewhere around 20 to 25 million, they recommended 15 to 20%. And then as you step up in budget, they recommend a lower percentage. For the larger municipalities like High Point, Winston, Greensboro, those folks, and even for us around the 45 to 50 million dollar, they say 8%, you've got to have that. Anything over it you're in the good.
You don't foresee any problems with us doing this?
No, I
You
don't.
wouldn't be asking, right?
No, I don't see any problem with it. And, we could probably go back and look at some of the things that we bought and paid for. For instance, one big expense was the land down at, that we bought down at Ivy Redmond. We took $1 million out of fund balance to pay for some of that. Then we bought, the church over on Nelson Street. We got the land down at, Ivy Redmond that the board voted to buy. And we've still got our contribution to the Kerner's Folly still to come out. So all those together are about $2 or $3 million. We just didn't go back and didn't really see the need to go back and borrow that money, because then you just add a payment to the budget that you've got to carry out for 10 or 15 years, whatever it may be. So I don't see any problems with it. Again, we'll be above the 10. We're looking at, we think we'll probably be around 15. But just for future, as our budget continues to grow, we feel like 10 is probably the best place to land. And we don't anticipate having to change that for, another 10 or 15 years probably.
Oh, thank you. Curtis, do we know whether this reduction that you're recommending would have any bearing on our bond rating in the event we had to borrow going forward?
No, it shouldn't have. Because probably the last time we got rated on bonds, 1997 or 8, and we were probably somewhere around about 15% then, and we didn't even have a fund balance policy at that point. So as long as the way the bond rating companies look at it, as long as you're meeting the state requirement of 8% and you're not over obligating yourself in what you're asking to issue the bonds for, and you've had good past history, and they look at your tax rate, they don't like to see a fluctuating tax rate or overly high tax rate for a municipality your size, things like that, it won't impact your bond rating.
Curtis, so basically what you're telling us, we're going to cut by half of what we have required in the past, going from 20% down to 10. That appears to be a little drastic. Wouldn't going down to about 15% be a little bit more practical?
We're cutting the percentage, but not actually the dollar
I
amount.
understand the dollar amount, but things keep going up in price too.
Yeah.
Inflation is, at a 40-year high, and I just don't think it's prudent for us to drop down to 10%. I can stomach dropping down to 15%, but dropping down to 10% is, I don't think that's what we need to do.
And if we only drop down to 15%, we're probably going to be violating our fund balance policy at the end of the year. That's the other catch. And if you're violating your fund balance policy, then that is.
So what's another remedy to get back to at least 15% between now and the end of the year?
You could go in and borrow. You go back and borrow some of the money that you've paid out of the general fund. You go back and borrow some of that, and then it would go back in the general fund. You would just replenish the general fund with that money. The other option would be you could certainly raise taxes in next year's budget and put some of that extra back into the general fund. The only remedy in this particular budget year would be to go back in before the end of the budget year and borrow some of the money that you've just paid out of the general fund, because that's where it's all coming from on that, is the money that we've paid out and not went back and borrowed. So, it's what we can do. You can change it at any time. My recommendation would be that you lower the fund balance policy to 10% with a recommendation, and not put it in the fund balance policy, but just a guidance from the board that we try to keep it at 15, which is what we try to do anyway. But that way it's not in your policy per se, but it's just kind of guidance from the board that's where you try to keep it.
What
And we can always, the other option.
we have in there now, Kurt?
Do what?
What percent is it now?
We're right around 15% is what we're anticipating at the end of the fiscal year. But we don't know because we don't know what, we're 4 months away from the end of the fiscal year. So we're not sure exactly, but we're anticipating it to be around 15%. But that's dependent on, on revenue sources coming in like we project, expenses coming in like we project, and with 4 months out, the revenue sources are the ones that's the most unpredictable. Just don't know what they'll come in at. So what we could do is we could set it at 10, see where we're at the end of the fiscal year, and then raise it to 15 if we're there. So
Why don't we do it the other way? Why don't we set it at 15 and we see what we're at the end of the year, and if we got to lower it, we lower it then.
And I think, what would our time frame be on it, Franz, with the auditors?
Your idea is correct, what I hear.
Franz, if you could come forward and speak in the microphone.
And before he gets up, the other thing is what they consider is they don't necessarily look at your budget as it's adopted. So our budget that was adopted was 43 million. They also take into consideration the ARPA money that came in, all of those funds that were expended. So that runs and the carryover projects from 21-22 that we carried over to 22-23. So that's making us having to benchmark 20%, not of a $43 million budget, but of one that's about $53 million. So that's what I say, the percentage there, when you look at what you're taking the percentage of, it's not even your true budget that was approved and adopted by the board. It's whatever you've brought over from the previous year to this year and so forth. So instead of saying 20% of 43 million, you're looking at 20% of 53 million. So that's what I say. The most important thing is really the dollar amount as opposed to the percentage. As long as you can hit that, still have the same dollar amount in there. For us, anyway.
It's whatever the board wants to do. We could leave it where it's at if you want and see 3 months, 6 months from now where we are to come up with a plan.
So I guess if the auditors come in and it's below the 20%, do we then have to send I guess we have to have a letter within a year of what the correction is?
Financial performance indicator of concern letter. Like
Yeah.
before.
Be a letter like you had last month about the time frame.
I mean, if we're already at 15% right now, why don't we just set it at 15 cents? That way we're not in violation, and then we see what happened in the next couple of months. And then if we have to adjust, then we adjust at that time. But I just don't think it's prudent financial planning to go in and drop it by 50% from 20 all the way down to 10. That's kind of drastic, I think.
We can certainly take that step and drop it to 15. And like I say, if we come back at the end of June 30th and we know we need to adjust it, we can adjust it at that time. It's just like I told Alderman Penny, it's hard to say right now. The unpredictable one is the revenue. I mean, we pretty much know what our expenses line up to be. So that's fine if you want to drop it to 15 now and then come back and see where we're at the end of the fiscal year. We can certainly do that.
I think we need to do whatever we have to do to not get another financial performance indicator letter like we did last year. I think for that to happen 2 years in a row is not good.
It's what we can do if you make the motion tonight to set it at 15. We'll look as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, maybe around April or May, when we have a little bit better, indicator of what the revenues do. And if we need to, we can come back before the end of the fiscal year and drop it back to 10, if that's okay with everybody. I just need a motion to that extent.
So move what you just said.
Okay.
A motion by J.R. Gorham, second. Second by Joe Penix. All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, item G, consideration of a resolution authorizing an exception to competitive bid requirements for software for the police department.
Madam Mayor and Board, this is software that they were using in internal investigations. They've looked, there's basically one provider for this software that works with what we currently have in the police department. We can go with a sole source provider, but the board has to adopt a resolution authorizing us to do that. So you have that resolution in your packet authorizing an exception to competitive bidding requirements for IA Pro and Blue Team software. Then you have in that resolution the three requirements of the General Statute 143-129E6. Performance or price competition for a product are not available. A needed product is available from only one source of supply, and standardization or compatibility is overriding consideration. So you have those in there. Chief Summers is here. He can tell you about the software if you have any questions about it, and about the sole source provider for that. And we've done this in the past in different departments as well as the police department, whether it's for service or software, project, things like that. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen from time to time, where we try to make it compatible with software that we have existing or whatever it may be.
Are there any questions?
Software, Chief, what does it do? So this software is going to replace about a 15-year-old program we have downstairs that is for internal affairs investigations, complaints, traffic crashes by officers, stuff like that. And then, but on top of that, and Adam probably laugh at me for trying to explain this IT stuff because I don't understand it, but it has to marry with our systems where we have upwards of 10 and 15 different programs running. This one's running in the background and capturing stuff from other programs as well. And not only that, this system, which we're in compliance now with Senate Bill 300, which Mr. Powell's helped us with a lot, with even to include our city ordinances. But it's for officer accountability and professionalism too, and so that we can track officers, track bad behavior, any of that stuff that Senate Bill 300 asks us to track. Good deal. Thank you.
Do I have a motion
I'll make a motion.
to approve the purchase, or to approve
The sole source provider.
the sole source provider?
Yes, second.
Got a motion to approve by Alderman Barrow, second by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. All those in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we have a consent agenda. It has minutes for the February 1st regular meeting as item A, minutes for the February 7th regular meeting as item B, and as item C, consideration of a resolution authorizing the execution of sanitary sewer application and conveyance agreements. Would anyone in the audience like to see items A, B, or C removed from the consent agenda for discussion before the vote? Would anyone on the board like to see items A, B, or C removed for discussion prior to the vote? All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Thompson, second.
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. All right, that brings us to item 4, briefing on the March 7 meeting agenda. All right, so we will have as item 1B, presentation of an update on the Weldon development by Milt Rhodes. Ms. Garner, do you have any information on that?
I think he may have spoken with you, Mr. Swisher, about that presentation, so.
He did, and he didn't really elaborate. I think they come in probably every year, someone from Weldon, usually Milt, just gives an update on where they are as far as the development goes, how built out they are, what the next phase will be. and so forth. So he is going to come in, should be a short presentation, and he'll be available for any questions.
Okay. And then he's aware of our time limits, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, item C is the 2022 annual reports and 2023 budget requests from the Kernersville Museum, which is report only, the Auto Museum, the Senior Center, Senior Services, and Next Step Ministries. Do you have any further information on any of those at this time, Mr. Swisher?
No, ma'am.
Are all of those ones that we have funded in the past?
They are.
Okay. All right, item D is consideration of a resolution setting the date of a public hearing to consider closing Moravian Lane.
This item was continued until the March meeting. This is it's not the public hearing on whether or not to close it. It is the public hearing, it's the discussion on whether or not to have a public hearing to close it. So that's what's on the agenda. Have some information. It's not a lot. The board asked for us to check into. We did have a title search done on the property, the Moravian Lane. It is a town street. It is basically not a cart path or whatever it might be. So it is a town street. It is ours to close. It's not wide enough really for DOT standards to be a two-way crossover street. They would recommend it being kind of one way. If we leave it open and it's used as a crossover between Main and Mountain, DOT really had no input there. They said that would be up to the town to kind of decide if we wanted to use it as one. They did indicate it's not really wide enough to be a two-way. The church is, unless they've kind of changed, they've not indicated they would be willing to dedicate any more land that they own anywhere for another crossover street. But I think that will be, if the board adopts this resolution as a public hearing, I think that will be part of the discussion at the public hearing. So I can't speak for the church. That's just kind of what I gather. So again, this is not public hearing whether or not to close it. It's just whether or not to have a public hearing to decide on whether or not to close it. So this is the first step in that process. You have to call for the public hearing to close it, and that's kind of the first step in that process.
Do you expect representatives of the church to be at this meeting?
I think they will have a representative there, yes, ma'am.
Okay, any questions? Any more questions about the information the board requested that our town staff research? And Doran, what is the road condition of Moravian Lane now? It had several potholes.
They were repaired.
The potholes have been repaired. Okay, thank you. All right, item E is consideration of an ordinance for budget amendment number 8.
We are working on that. We'll have it uploaded next day or two. There's not much on it. I think we have in there moving the money, $750,000, moving that out of the general fund to pay the town's portion of the visitor center. And then I think there is maybe an amendment for, I'm thinking, is it public services that's in it? I can't remember. There's not a whole, Stormwater. There's not a lot in the budget amendment, but we'll have it uploaded next day or two.
All right, item F is consideration of a resolution regarding a local government commission application.
We are finalizing the design and bids for the Beeson's Crossroads Fire Station. In order for us to get funding for that project, we are required to go to the local government commission. This resolution will allow the board to submit that application to the LGC. It's an amount not to exceed $4.5 million. We don't anticipate it to be that much, but we set the amount higher than what we anticipated it to be. So if it does come in higher than what we thought, but less than that amount, then we don't have to wait the extra month to come back, because they have some time frames that you have to hit. So we will have that on the agenda to approve that. Then we'll have the bids at a later time to come in for the board approval as well.
The next item is the capital improvement plan.
You all adopted a capital improvement plan last year. We're required, general statute, to adopt one every year. This one is for fiscal year 2024 through fiscal year 2028. So as I told you last year, it doesn't really set anything in stone. This is what we try to follow for, equipment replacement, infrastructure, things like sidewalks. If there's new roads, I don't think we have any new roads on it. Things like that. Park improvements, all of that's in there. We've got it in a year that we would, if everything goes great and we have all kinds of money, we would anticipate doing it in that year. That very rarely happens. Things usually get pushed out, not moved up. There have been situations where a piece of equipment may break down before we get around to replacing it in the year that it is on the CIP, and we'll go ahead and replace it. But we're required to adopt one, so we usually try to get it to you in February or March, and that'll be there. I'll be glad to answer any questions on it either tonight or Tuesday night, either one.
All right, and then a contract award for paving improvement.
This is the paving that was approved in the budget for fiscal year 22-23. We'll have those bids for you to approve the low bidder on Tuesday night.
Okay, does anyone have any questions of Mr. Swisher on any of the public session items? All right, I think that puts us back to the agenda for this evening and the town manager's report.
I have nothing for this evening, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and then we have the town attorney's report.
I have no report, but there is need for having a closed session.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Powell. And then matters to be presented by the Mayor, Board of Aldermen. Mr. Penix, have you got anything to present this evening? Thank you. General Gorham.
Negative.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Apple.
I have a question of you, but I can ask you that privately.
Okay.
Procedure for next week.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Barrow.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Curtis, what's the deal with the museum foundation? I hadn't heard anything about that.
I have talked to her, and they have not gotten all of their bids in yet. I think she anticipated having those in probably in the next. I talked to her 2 weeks ago, and I think she said they would have them in the next couple of weeks. Right now, I think they're still maybe operating either. They don't have a director, so they're operating, I think, with the board. And they were over at the depot, but I don't know if they're still over there or not. I mean, they're still doing some functions and whatnot. They're just not doing anything in the museum itself. So you see, she's on the agenda for next week to come in and give an update. And I think part of her update will be where they stand with that. So, but I know she's hoping to get them all in and get started on it.
Good deal. Thank you.
Mr. Barrow, did you have anything else?
That's all.
Okay, Mr. Thompson?
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you. All right, and so we are to our closed session.
Madam Mayor, pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 A3, I move that the board go into closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. We are now in
I kept seeing you visit that bag during your presentation.
Make no mistake, nutrition does.
Hey, there's sugar rush every day. You can't stop.
Welcome back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Before we adjourn, we have one more matter of business to take
Madam Mayor,
consideration of.
I'd like to make a motion to add discussion and consideration of an ordinance ordering non-residential structure demolished and removed pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 160D-1125 to next week's agenda.
All right, so this would be added at the end of the public session. So it would become agenda item I. Do you have that, Mr. Hooker?
I have that it'll be agenda item 1I, but I'll need to probably review the recording to get the exact wording, or if Alderman Thompson has it written.
He can, how I heard it was a motion to amend the agenda for the March 7th meeting to include discussion and consideration of an ordinance ordering non-residential structure demolished and removed pursuant to NC Gen Stat 160D 1125.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Powell, do you also want the street address of the structure listed on the agenda? Do you also want the street address?
I think that would be helpful, yes, to put that in there, just so there's no question about where it is.
It's 900A East Mountain Street, Kernersville.
900A East Mountain Street.
Is that okay to add to your motion?
Yes, thank you for asking.
Okay, so I had a motion by Alderman Thompson. Do I have a second to the amended motion? A second by Alderman Penix. All those in favor of adding this to the agenda signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? It's 4-1. All right, is there any further business before the board this evening? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Thompson.
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for joining us.